Welcome back, I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now without further ado, let's begin. This story was created by a user named LucyLam7. It was posted in the relationship advice subreddit and is titled Husband 33M said he would kill me 33F if I cheated on him. Do I need to run? My husband has told me multiple times, if you ever cheat on me, I'd kill him, kill you, then kill myself. He seemed serious but calm at the time, just like he was stating a fact. When I brought it up later, he said it was a joke, but it wasn't said jokingly. I saw it more as a manipulation tactic than an actual threat. He's also mentioned things like how if he didn't have me, he'd have no reason to live, and that he wanted to kill himself before we met, and then he didn't because he met me. My question is, for those of you who have experienced similar, did it escalate? Edit. Obviously, I don't plan on cheating on him, but I'm wondering how concerning these sorts of comments are in a marriage. Edit 2. I've put additional context in one of the comments, but I'm going to put it here too for new commenters. Yes, his comment like this was concerning at the time he first made it, but I didn't really take it seriously. Since then, I've heard it so many times that it doesn't bother me anymore. Recently, there's been a bit of a development, and now I'm questioning everything, trying to work out if the man I thought I married was real. So, buckle up. This one's going to be a long one. I've left some of the finer details out for the sake of trying to streamline this, but let me know if anything is unclear in the comments. When I first met my husband on Hinge at the end of April 2022, he was super insecure and controlling. About 4 weeks into the relationship, he discovered, by going through my phone, that I'd had a thing with someone like 2 weeks before I met him and accused me of cheating on him. I'd stopped seeing the other guy, let's call him K, as soon as I'd met my husband in person, because I knew it was something I wanted to pursue, but at the same time I was telling husband I wasn't ready for a relationship, that we needed to take things slowly, that I wasn't his girlfriend. Apparently this didn't matter because when he found out I'd cheated, he flipped out, threatened to kill himself, threatened me with violence, and overall made my life a misery. I was scared to go to sleep because I worried that he would hurt himself while I was asleep, or go through my phone and find things from before I met him to start worrying about. If he did, I'd get woken up asking who I'd sent this or that picture to. Like a month or two before he and I even started talking, I was told it was gross and that I needed to cut every guy in my life off. I did what he asked because I loved him, and because I was scared if I broke it off that he would do something really rash. 6 months later, I was tired of having my location tracked everywhere I went. I was tired of him leaning on me for emotional support, so I tried to break things off. He sat there and cried and told me he would change and he wouldn't be the same person again. I asked him to leave the house, and he said he would go sleep in his car. His brother lives a 5-minute drive from us. I said I wasn't going to let him sleep in his car, so I let him stay in the house on the couch on the understanding that he would not come into the bedroom. I woke up at 2 a.m. or so with him standing over me, telling me he was looking for something I'd already given him. I suspect he wanted to look through my phone again. I came home from work the next day to find a list of homeless shelters on a piece of paper beside his bed. I figured that I was supposed to see this and feel bad for him. The next day, he promised to change, so I gave him a chance to make things right. He promised me he would be the man I deserved, treat me like a princess, etc. Everything's been mostly good since then. He seemed perfect, and I thought I'd found my soulmate. Except for one night about a month ago when I was using his phone and I needed to go back in his browser history to find something. I found a load of links to male escort listings on Locanto and then a load of gay porn. When I asked him about it, at first he pretended he had no idea what I was talking about. He then said, "I don't even know what that was for." And then he told me that he was scared because his was unresponsive. He was trying to handle himself with pictures and videos of me, and it wouldn't get hard. He then said he freaked out, and that was his reaction, to see if it did anything. He said he started with the listings and then went to porn, had a flick through, and then closed it when it didn't do anything for him. I said I didn't understand because we had made love the day before, and it seemed to work fine then, and that he had a doctor's appointment the next day, so he could have asked about it then. I asked him if he had tried gay porn before, and he said yes, when he was much younger, and that it didn't do anything for him. I said I was struggling to understand how he would turn to this suddenly if he'd never been interested before. He ended up getting really defensive and screaming at me that he was freaking out and I can't believe you think I'm gay. I said it was no problem if he was bi or bi-curious, but that the escort listings were a massive concern to me, and he knew how I would have felt about it. I ended up speaking to someone close to him about it, and then it came out of the bag that something he'd told me at the start of our relationship was a complete fabrication. He'd told me that the car accident he was in when he was 18 or 19 was a suicide attempt. Turns out this was a lie and that there was someone else in the car with him. I told him I didn't understand why he would lie about that, and he was super evasive and defensive. At the same time, I questioned him about a few other things that had been weird throughout our relationship, and it turned out that they were all lies too. Throughout our relationship, he's told me how much he values our openness and honesty and how he could never lie to me, even if it was a white lie. I told him that all of these things being untrue was extra concerning considering he was always so vocal about the importance of honesty and trust with your partner. I told him that I was struggling to trust him at this point and asked him if there was anything else he had lied to me about or hidden from me throughout our relationship. Told him it was a lie amnesty and that I just wanted everything else out on the table so we could go ahead with a clean slate and a bit of therapy. This whole time he was being super evasive and was telling me that there was nothing else he'd ever hidden or lied to me about, that he was going to be completely honest from now on, and that I knew everything now. I still didn't believe him, so he offered me his phone number and Google account number and told me to put my mind at rest. Turns out he didn't clean up as well as he had thought because I discovered, no, it wasn't the only time he'd looked at escort listings since we've been together. A few months prior, he'd Google searched his ex, then searched for her name and nudes, and then immediately watched porn and jerked off. The day after my birthday last year, he had been searching for booty call apps. Right before we met, he'd been signing up to no less than 15 hookup apps. He'd signed up for my transgender date the night before we met in person. That was after talking for a week and telling me he was smitten with me and couldn't wait to meet me. 4 weeks before we met, he was swapping pics with men on FetLife and talking about what he wanted to do to them, while telling them he likes trans and femboy stuff, also liking a lot of pre-op MTF pics on the same site. He'd had some sort of contact with an escort previously, but couldn't tell me when or what for. Even though he told me repeatedly how he didn't see the appeal of OnlyFans or sex workers, he was still searching them more than he ever admitted to watching porn. He later admitted that he didn't realize that Google still saves your searches even if you clear your browser history. I tried to understand why he had done these things, while also feeling like the person he'd always portrayed himself as was a complete fabrication. When I asked him about searching for nudes of his ex, he immediately flew into a rage. No buildup, just straight to fury. He screamed at me that he would never ever do that he would admit to anything else but not that. He completely lost his mind. I've never seen anyone react in that way before. Everything else he said he just didn't remember. A few days later, I asked him to go stay with family for a bit so we could clear our heads. A few days later, I decided that I couldn't ever get over the betrayal that I'd felt, that I felt like I'd married a lie, and that more importantly, the trust was gone. About a week later, he told me he wanted to come home so he could return to work. I told him he could stay in the house as long as he respected that we were still separated, and that I didn't want him coming home and pretending like everything was back on track. He said he totally understood. So far, it's not been like that, and he talks about when we do stuff and talking about how much he loves me, and it's kind of sent me back in time 2 weeks. I don't know how I feel, and I don't know what to do. He's since admitted to everything, even though he said he would never do some of those things, and his reasons just don't gel. He's also admitted he's got a problem with lying and that he doesn't know why he does it. I told him that I hate that I even felt like I needed to second guess him, and that I do not want to be the kind of wife who looks through her husband's phone. Part of me is hopeful that with enough counseling, we can make this work, but the rest of me fears that now the trust is gone, the relationship is done. Maybe I just don't love or respect myself enough to see how messed up this really is. Maybe I'm gaslighting myself. TLDR. Husband said he would kill me if I cheated on him. Multiple times. I didn't take it seriously, but I've since discovered he's been looking at male escort listings, searching for his ex's nudes, and compulsively lying. User WasabiFew2106 said, "My ex was this way. Said those words to me over and over again year after year until they almost felt like they didn't mean anything. Then one day, he was having an episode and we were arguing and he walked off and came back with a loaded gun. I thought I was going to die that day. Instead, he just stared at me, then took it and locked himself in the bathroom. It switched from me thinking I was going to die to trying to stop him from shooting himself. Long story short, it can absolutely escalate and you'll never know when. Leave and never stay around anyone who would say or even vaguely infer anything like that." Under this comment, a deleted user said, "A very similar thing happened to me, but it wasn't a boyfriend. I will never forget the coldness that swept over me when the gun was pointed at me. A part of me died that day, and I can't get that part back. Knowing that somebody you are supposed to trust, somebody that is supposed to love you, can so flippantly get so close to taking your life is absolutely crushing. It's like a part of me went numb and just never recovered. The after effects of abusive relationships like this are awful. User Lady Clepsydra said, "Yes, in my opinion, you should run. A man who would kill you for cheating would kill you for other things, like thinking that you cheated when you didn't. You may be 1000% sure you will never cheat on him, but you can't be forever 100% certain he won't ever think that you did, especially since his threat reads as violent and scary." What I have learned is that scary, violent men are also often controlling men who are also overly jealous, and they see stuff like having a male friend, normal socializing with a man, or I wore a short skirt and someone catcalled me as disloyalty. You know, because they are controlling, so you are in danger pretty much all the time. This next story was posted in the same subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled, "I am 43M and my 21F daughter won't speak to me. I want her back in my life." This is my first time posting on Reddit. I know I will be met with harsh judgment, but I need advice on how to rebuild a relationship with my only daughter. I want to start off by saying that I know I was the one who ruined our relationship, but it's been 3 years already. I just don't see why she can't come around. I miss her terribly, and she's my one and only girl, my only child. I should explain, I, 43M, married my current wife, 21F, 3 years ago. It had caused quite some backlash from my friends, my community, some of my family members, my ex, and, of course, my daughter. But I had to marry my wife. She's the only one for me. She's beautiful, she's intelligent, she's a kind and caring woman. I knew my daughter would have some problems with my marriage, but I never expected how harsh she could have been. She begged me to end this marriage. She pleaded with my wife to leave me. I have to admit I'm not proud of myself, but I told her that I wished she was never born, that I resented her, and that she meant nothing to me. I already had a rocky relationship with my daughter. She never approved of my relationship with my wife, but we would at least have a talking relationship. Since that day, she hasn't spoken to me. If I am being honest, I miss her, and I decided to see on social media how she was doing. She's engaged, I am her father, and I found out about my own daughter's engagement through social media. That was when I knew I had made a serious mistake. I don't want to miss out on any more of her milestones in life. I contacted her through social media, but she had blocked me. I want to reach out to her again. I want her back in my life, but I need advice. Edit. I will be editing this post to answer some questions and paint a clearer picture. For one, I did not meet my wife when she was a minor. That would have been extremely disgusting, and I would have seen her differently if I had. Everything about our relationship has been legal, and there was clear consent. I met her when she was 18. We dated for a total of 8 months before we got married. She had always been more reserved and shy, so we agreed on an elopement. I am not planning to have any more children in the near future. As for the relationship between my wife and my daughter, they weren't enemies. They were simply friends. She had started coming over, and a relationship between us had naturally developed. She was skeptical at the very beginning, but I truly love her, and I know she feels the same. I must also say, my wife is an adult woman. She is not some baby. The way that a lot of you consider her to be a child is frankly disturbing and hurtful towards her. She can make her own decisions, and she chose to be with me. Why else has she stayed by my side for 3 years? User Rich Concentrate 200 said, "The best advice for you is to accept the consequences of your actions. You reap what you sow. If I were your daughter, I would also cut you off, especially now during the engagement. Leave her alone. I'm sure there is someone decent enough to walk her down the aisle. You don't realize how disgusting and awful you are. I pity the young woman you groomed, and hopefully she wakes up soon." User Liana Van said, "You are not her father anymore. You are simply the person who told her he wished she wasn't born. Stop being so selfish. Enjoy the trophy wife and leave that daughter alone. ETA, your edit is not helping you. You f***ed your daughter's friend." User Nicodemus said, "Your entire post is, I want, I want, I want." This is exactly the kind of mindset I'd expect of a middle-aged man who couldn't control himself enough to not date a minor and marry her at 18. Still a child, mentally and physically. And you knew it was wrong too. How do I know? Because instead of taking your daughter's feelings into account, you got defensive and told her you wished she'd never been born. That's the kind of thing you don't get over. I suspect that there is a deeper level of betrayal here also. Maybe your wife was a friend or classmate of your daughter, or maybe you cheated on her mother with your wife, though on its own, it's bad enough. You formed a romantic relationship with a minor and married that minor when she was barely legal. Your daughter likely feels a lot of shame about your actions and her association with you. Nobody can afford to be associated with the town perv. It would come with huge social and career consequences. You seem to think you have a right to a relationship with your daughter. You don't. Just as your wife became an adult at 18, so did your daughter. She can conduct her adult relationships as she sees fit, just like your wife. You've made your choice. These are the consequences of that choice. You can't fix the relationship. You've done all you can, which is reach out. Your daughter made it clear that she wants nothing to do with you by blocking you. The very best thing you can do is show her that you respect her decision and autonomy as an adult and leave your daughter alone. She might come around one day. In the meantime, just be happy with the life you've got. About a month later, OP came back with an update. I expected a lot of backlash when I posted my first post regarding my issues with my daughter, but I hadn't expected the death threats and the accusations that I am a pedophile. I met my wife when she was 18 and an adult. That is that, and just know I am unbothered by the death threats. It just shows how immature some people can be. Now, I did end up meeting with my daughter, and I suppose I'm just posting this to get this all off my chest. I received a message from my daughter. She had unblocked me and sent me a brief message. She wanted to meet up, and I was feeling hopeful. I thought maybe she realized that she needed her father in her life. Though, she followed it up by saying that my parents had pressured her into at least trying to speak with me. That hurt a bit. I thought she wanted to meet up and reconcile out of her own volition, but even if it was just pressure from my parents, I was still happy. This was my chance to make things right. On the day when we were supposed to meet up, I made a huge mistake. I lost track of time. I was busy with my wife. She was too cute to ignore, and well, one thing led to another, and by the time I remembered, it was already 30 minutes after we were due to meet at the local park. I can't forget the look my daughter gave me. She almost seemed as though she didn't care and even expected this. I tried to explain myself the best way I could. I kept it vague and said I lost track of time, but she wasn't having any of it. I tried so hard to get through to her and explain that I was sorry, but she just coldly told me to make my parents leave her alone. She told me that I wasn't her father anymore, that she'd never forgive me for everything I did. She told me that if I or my parents ever bother her again, she would stop talking to my side of the family completely. I had to admit, I was getting a little angry as my parents had done nothing wrong, but I held my tongue. To add salt to the wound, she told me I wasn't invited to her wedding and her maternal uncle would be walking her down the aisle instead. I felt broken. I wanted to make things work. I had to make things right. I kept trying to get through to her, but her fiancé showed up and they left. Just like that. I couldn't even get another word in. She didn't even introduce me to the boy. I just feel like it's all over. My parents have been blowing up my phone, blaming me for screwing up and embarrassing them, but at least I still have my wife by my side. I feel so alone, but with her, my life doesn't seem like a complete shithole. She's all I need.